Hello, welcome to Kubernetes deployment series part 24. In this series, we are going to learn how to deploy microservices into cluster using Flux and customization. In the previous labs, we have already discussed how to deploy microservices using Flux by including all the manifest files for all the services in a single folder or by including separately for individual services. So in this lab, we'll focus how to deploy the raw or the basic manifest files into multiple environments, dev, test, and prod using customization. So if we'll go to the VS Code, I'll just explain the repository structure that we need for this Flux to reconcile. So here we can see there is a cluster config. So this is nothing to configure our kind cluster. So here there is a config file. So that this is optional. If you want to make your cluster, if you need to customize it, like you want to create a custom cluster, then you can mention here how many master plan or how many worker load we have to create. Anything you have to mention, and that while creating the kind cluster, you can pass it as a parameter. You can see here. Here I'm passing this as a parameter, the name of the config file to create the cluster with two nodes here, as we mentioned. Okay, so this is it is a optional folder if you require to make your cluster with different worker nodes or control plane. Okay. The next folder here you can see. So let me explain. This is our customized manifest. So it includes the raw manifest files for each of the environment. And here we can see for each of these cluster objects, config or the services like order, product, rabbit message, queue, and storefront, we can see, for example, if you go to the order, we have two things here. One is the base and overlays. Okay, so base contains all the common mm, manifest file, like it will be applicable for both, for all the environments, like whether it is a dev, test, or fraud. So if those information we can keep in this the base deployment YAML file or the service YAML file. Okay, so this is the common properties what you want to deploy for that environment. So if we want to patch something, some extra thing we need to do, then what we have to do is we need to create some environment specific uh, patches or modification file we have to include here. Okay, so you can see in the dev environment I have include a deployment patch. Okay, I just named it deployment patch because I need to modify the whatever mentioned in the base deployment, that it should override it. Okay, so here you can see, here I mentioned one, and in the deployment also it is one, so nothing will happen, but I just want to make it like for the dev environment it should create one replica for the order service. Okay, but if you see for the test I just mentioned two, and for product I have for product I have mentioned it's three. So I have already explained in our previous labs when we learn how to use Kustomize. Okay, and this Kustomize we have already deployed using QCTL as well as Argo CD. Okay, both in case of using the command line as well as automated using the Azure pipeline. If you have not seen those videos, you can go through that. Everything is mentioned in this in the description, video description, so you can go through those repository as well as the videos to check how Kustomize used using the QCTL as well as Argo CD, both using the command line and automated using Azure DevOps pipeline. Okay, so here it is defined like for order environment, sorry, order service. Also for product, you can say this the base and overlays for rabbit message queue and storefront. Okay, same thing. We have defined three different environment folder here, and under that we have a patch um, manifest file we have created. Okay, so this patch will basically it will override what we have defined in our base manifest file. Okay, and here you can use a customize that it will just mention like which patch we are going to use, and that will be merged or override in the base folder manifest file. Okay, so this is the structure, and this is required. Customize basically required whenever we want to use the same customize same manifest file for multiple environments. Okay, and again it will be like the way we just customize it for different environment. It may be like the replica set or any properties, like if you want to use override the here if you see I have just added a deployment patch. We can also include a service patch if you want to modify anything in the or service manifest file. Okay, for example, if you want to change uh, the port or any the type of our service, whether it is a node port or it is a cluster IP or it may be load balancer, right? Depending upon the requirement, we can change it. For example, for prod, if you want to keep it as a load balancer, but in test and dev, you want to make it node port, that we can do by adding a patch service manifest file in the respective dev, test, and prod environment. Okay. So next one is we have here added another variable, sorry, folder, that is called dev, prod, and test. And under this I have also created another customization. And this customization basically it points, because if you see in the customization, if you want to deploy into dev environment, for example, so in that case is so for there are multiple services, right? For config, order, product, rabbit message queue, and storefront. Okay, so all these services need to be deployed into the dev environment and test environment as well as in prod environment. Okay, so for that, under this environment folder, I have created three different uh, folder with respect to the environment. And here I have included customization, and under that customization I have mentioned which path it should include. I mean, which path, from which path it should take the manifest to deploy. Okay, so here you can say uh, for rabbit message queue, it will take the overlays and dev environment. For order, again, it will take from the overlays and dev. Similarly, for product and storefront, it will take that overlays and dev environment. You can see here for order, it will go to the overlays and take this dev environment. Okay, so these things it will try to deploy, and this will again refer to the base one here. And if it will override this base manifest file according this whatever we define in that overlays dev environment and deploy it. Okay, but here if we see for config, right, I don't have any dev test or prod specific configuration manifest file, so I just mention here base, whatever is mentioned in the base, right, it will take this base one. Okay, but if you want, we can also customize it by overriding this config map ml file with respect to the environment as well. Okay, yeah, so here nothing, just if you see in prod also I just mentioned the prod and overlays prod folder. Okay, so it will point to that. Similarly for test, it will be same thing, and it will point to the test folder, and that point to our test environment. You can see here we are not using different cluster, we are simply using a different namespace. Okay, so this will be deployed in the test namespace, and the product will deploy into the product namespace, and the dev will be deployed into dev namespace. Okay, so this is the extra things what we have included as a customization with respect to the environments. Okay, and this customization basically pointing to our customized manifest. Here we have mentioned customized manifest and overlays and the target environment or the folder where which one we are going to deploy into the cluster. Okay, so that's all about this structure here. But in order to use Flux, we need to do a bootstrapping, that what we did in our previous lab. If we see, for this I need to first create a cluster here. I'll use this kind cluster, simple one, and let me just execute this command. So if what it will try to do, it will create a cluster in the local cluster using kind. Okay, okay, okay. Because I am using the PS command line tool here, let me use in the terminal, bash terminal. Okay, now execute it. Okay, so even it is already there. So what I have to do, let me delete it first and I'll create it, because I was verifying this before. So it is already there. Let me delete this cluster. It will take a minute to delete the cluster, then we'll again recreate it. let me, okay, it is done. Now what I have to do, I have to create it. So let it create. So what we are doing here, in the name of demo cluster, we are going to create the cluster. And after that, what we have to do, we have to bootstrap our FluxCD. Okay, so for that, we need to create this three variables. We need to use these three variables, the GitHub user, because the Flux need to connect to the repository, and the name of the repository. So it will, if this repository is not created, I mean, it is not exist, then it will create a new one. And the path token. So we need to create a path token. I have already discussed how we can create a path token in the GitHub. So these three variables we need to include. Let me open another console here. Okay, so let me just create these three variable. I just copy it from here. Okay, so it includes the path token as well. So once so it still is going on, then what I have to do, I have to just run this command for bootstrapping our uh, FluxCD. Okay, so for that, if you could create this, right, it will do all these three things here. It will create or link to the GitHub, the repository. Then it will install the components. Here you can see these are the components it will create, right? Customize controller, source controller, Helm controller, as well as notification controller. Okay, so in this case, basically we are using this customize controller and source controller as Git repository. Okay, so these two things are still till now we have used. So when we'll use Helmchart, in that case, we're going to use the Helm controller. So Helm repository and Helm release, that we'll discuss in our future lab. And notification control, that if you want to do notify something from the using our FluxCD, okay, that we learn how we'll do in our future lab. Okay, yeah. So let me copy this one. Okay, so we have already created these variables. Okay, now let me create this. I mean, bootstrap this Argo, sorry, not FluxCD. Okay, so it will take a couple of minutes to bootstrap our FluxCD. So once it done successfully, we can see in the repository it will create a folder with the name of clusters demo cluster, and under that it will create a flux hyphen system namespace. Okay, another folder it will create. Okay, so in that namespace flux hyphen system, it will create all these controllers what we have just discussed now. These controllers it will create under that namespace. Okay, so so let me create a few namespaces here for our dev test prod. Okay, so for that, let me define the alias k equal to kubectl. Okay, then k create namespace dev, then I'll just create the test namespace, then let me create the prod. Okay, so if you see k get namespace, we can see dev prod test created and flux system. This is got created by when we just did this bootstrapping. Okay, and under this flux system, right, we can see all the components. Like if we see here k get pod, okay, minus n flux system. So here we'll use the namespace flux system. You can see just now it got created. Okay, so if you go to the other terminal here, it got created. You can see. Okay, it's successful, done. Okay, now that part is done. Next, what we have to do now, let just pull the repository. Okay, and we'll see whether that um, folder got created. You can see the cluster folder got created. Under that there is a demo cluster, the same thing what we have mentioned, demo cluster, and under this it created a Flux system, and under this Flux system, these three manifest file, YAML file, it got created. Okay, so this basically used by the Flux to monitor the repository. So the repository what we have mentioned here in our the repository what we have mentioned here, right? That will be just monitored by this Flux system. Okay, and here if you see this is the repository, it is linking, this is the source of truth, and this is the path. Okay, it will look to this path, clusters, demo cluster. So what will include under this demo cluster, right? That it will keep monitoring. Okay, so if you see here, if you go to the folder here, see, and this one, right, clusters, demo cluster. So here we have to include, right? So we have to include the um, customization file here, that nothing that it will point to our artifacts. Okay, so I have already created those manifest file, I mean the customization file, that will just copy that. It is there, I have already verified before. So these three things I have to copy here, and I'll just put under clusters, demo cluster, Flux system. Under this I have to copy. Okay, these are the manifest file that being used by the Flux system, and it will monitor this Flux system folder. Okay, in the repository. So I have added this new customization files here, so you can see. So here I have created three different customization YAML file, and each for different environment. Okay, so in this customization hyphen def YAML file, what I have did is simply, it is the source is Git repository, and here it is pointing to, we have created this environments folder, so it is pointing to the environments. So here it is not directly pointing to our customization manifest, because here we have multiple resource services, right? So we cannot mention here. So what we are doing, we have to mention a path here to this environment, and under this environment we have the dev. So I just mentioned this dev, and this customization icon pointing to that customization manifest. Okay, so there is three steps are there. Okay, so this, so the Flux will monitor this. Okay, and this will again pointing to this environment, and this environments again pointing to the customized manifest. Okay, and under this again it is pointing like overlays, then it pointing to the base. Okay, so this way the hierarchy. So the important thing here is to just structuring of the repository, how we can structure it. So it will be confusing and sometimes also difficult while understanding using this structure of our repository to use while and implementing in the deployment using the Flux CD. Okay, so just to have to like understand how it is getting linked. Okay, so that's all. We have added this. If you see, this is simply defining, pointing to the environment folder here, and this again pointing to the customization. You can see the overlays, which respective service environment is going to the use to deploy into the cluster. Okay, and we have as I have already discussed, like we have three different environment, and for that I have created three different namespaces: dev, test, and prod. Okay, now what we have to do, simply we have to uh, mm, uh, push into the repository. Okay, so let me just do it. I'm not putting any proper comment here, just to check it like how it works. So I'm just putting some update and pushing it to the repository. Okay, so as soon as I will push it, right, it will just try to reconcile it. Okay, so let go and let watch it. Okay, so if you want to watch it, you can use this command here. Okay, watch it how it is. So Flux system, that is already true, it is reconciled. Now we'll see how our new customization, how it is getting reconciled. I think do one thing. In the Flux system we have this one, and here it is taking 10 minutes. Let we can make it one as well. Okay, let it be anyway. So it is trying to, you can see here, it is trying to reconcile, right? So it is doing for store, dev, test, and prod. And I mean, yeah, so here if we see, I have named this variable as, so name of this manifest, right, I mean, deployment, I have just mentioned like online store dev, and here it is online prod. and this is online test, so that it is displaying here. Okay, so this is nothing the customization deployment. So it is still in progress, it will take some time. Let you watch it how it is proceeding. I'm not stopping the video. If you want, you can just fast forward it to watch how to check the result at the end. Yeah, still it is in progress. So while it reconciling, let just go through this again. Okay, so till now what we have observed, like we have learned how we have learned different approaches how we can deploy microservices into cluster. Okay, it may be you can use your local cluster like Minikube or Kind or any cloud provider, um, Kubernetes like for Azure it is AKS, or for AWS it may be your EKS. Okay, so the first thing we have learned is like we have used the manifest file and the raw manifest file, how we can deploy it using kubectl tool, both manually as well as automated using Azure DevOps pipeline. Then we have used how the different ways, like how we have used the Helmcharts. Then customize we have used. So after that, we also learn how we can use Argo CD as a deployment tool. Okay, that also we have learned using command line as well as automated through Azure Pipeline. And now we are learning how we can use the same uh, deployment using FluxCD. Okay, so you can see here still it shows reconciliation in progress. Let me do one thing. Let's change this to, okay, yeah. So let me just change it to 1 minute. Again, checking this. Okay, let's see how it is now going. So Flux is applied, Flux system is applied, but this our three manifests. I mean customization, dev, test, and prod. It is cost down. Okay, one more time. Let's see whether it got created or not. We can see here. Okay, so now you can see if we I just did kget pod from dev environment, it shows like it is already created. Similarly, if I want to check for test environment, it should show also. Yeah, my system is a bit slow. Here you can see there are two pods for each of the service got created, because in the test environment if you see um, customization manifest, and if you go to any of this, and if you go to the overlays and test environment deployment patch, we have mentioned two. Okay, so that's why it is showing two for the services for test environment. I mean two pods for the test environment. Okay, similarly if we check for prod, we can see three. It should be three because I have defined there. So order three, for order service there are three parts, and for product it shows three parts like that. Okay, now you can see, if we see right, it shows true. You can see is reconciled. Okay, but again coming Flux, still trying that. Okay, because again I checked in that, maybe that was, but it is already created. Okay, now if you want to see something different, like let me just check. Suppose for the dev and prod environment we want to increase it to 5, then what we can do is uh, here for each of the service or any particular service. For example, I want the front queue storefront uh, for prod environment, I want make it 5. right? Okay, so once I'll change this, and again I'll check in that, and I'll push to the repository, and we'll see how it is reconciling. Okay, yeah, the system's a bit slow, so it is taking time. Yeah, still checking. It is pushing to the repository. Yeah, I think it is done. Okay, yeah, it's done. Now what we'll do is let's check it again in prod. So the storefront should show 5, right? If it's reconciled. Yeah, still it is 3. Just wait for a couple of minutes. Whether it is online store prod. Okay, just let's check again. Now you can see, now it shows 5 part. Okay, for the service storefront in case of a prod namespace or prod environment. Okay, so you can see like how the FluxCD is monitoring for any changes in the manifest file. Okay, and how we used the Kustomize to take the help of Kustomize to deploy into multiple environments. Okay, here we just deployed into the same cluster but different namespaces, but we can use different cluster as well. Okay, yeah, so that's all for today. Like how I mean, to learn how to use Flux and Kustomize to deploy the raw manifest files into different environments. Okay, and in our next class we'll learn how we can use Helmchart um, to deploy the applications into cluster using FluxCD. So if you like this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe it. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.